Imagine finishing a long Saturday night shift in a busy North Carolina beach town. You leave work around 11 o'clock and sometime later stop at a convenience store. At 1:10 in the morning, you're seen there with a young woman. No one knows exactly who she is, and nearly 30 years later, investigators still don't. A few hours after that encounter, firefighters are racing toward your home as flames tear through the darkness. They go inside expecting to rescue someone from a house fire. Instead, they uncover a homicide. And by sunrise, a coastal town known for summer vacations and ocean views has become the backdrop for a mystery that remains unsolved nearly 3 decades later. Good evening. I'm Marcus Hayes, and tonight on Case Files After Dark, we're heading to North Carolina's Outer Banks to examine one of Dare County's most haunting unsolved homicides, the 1997 murder of 33-year-old Denise Johnson. If you're here for the deep, untold mysteries that time tried to bury, you're in the right place. To understand this case, we have to return to the summer of 1997 in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. July was the height of tourist season. The beaches were crowded, restaurants were busy, and thousands of vacationers filled the Outer Banks. Denise Johnson was 33 years old and worked as a waitress at the Barrier Island Inn in nearby Duck. Friends remembered her as strong, outgoing, and well-liked throughout the local restaurant community. On Saturday night, July 12th, Denise finished work at approximately 11 o'clock. But she didn't immediately disappear from public view. At approximately 1:10 Sunday morning, Denise was seen at a convenience store in the Avalon area of Kill Devil Hills, and she wasn't alone. Witnesses reported seeing Denise with a young blonde woman. Investigators described the woman as approximately 5'5" to 5'10", although contemporary reports gave slightly different estimates. Police released a composite sketch and publicly appealed for the woman to come forward. They made something very clear. They weren't necessarily calling her a suspect. They wanted to talk to her because she may have been one of the last people to see Denise alive. But despite the publicity, the woman was never positively identified. And Denise's remaining hours would become the center of a mystery investigators are still trying to solve. At 4:34 that morning, firefighters were dispatched to Denise's home on Norfolk Street. The house was burning. Firefighters entered the residence and discovered Denise inside. They removed her from the home and attempted to resuscitate her. But it quickly became apparent that this wasn't simply a tragic house fire. Denise had suffered multiple wounds to her neck. The medical examiner later determined that her death occurred sometime between approximately 1 and 4 o'clock that morning. The final autopsy concluded that Denise died from a combination of severe blood loss and smoke inhalation. There was no evidence of a sexual assault, and investigators determined that the fire had been intentionally set after the attack. Later summaries of the investigation also described additional injuries that authorities believed were consistent with a struggle. Someone had attacked Denise inside or around her home, and afterward, the house was set on fire. What might initially have appeared to be a devastating residential fire was now a homicide investigation. And in a community where murder was rare, the case sent shockwaves across the Outer Banks. Investigators moved quickly. The Kill Devil Hills Police Department took the lead. The North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation assisted in processing the crime scene, and the FBI was brought in to help develop a criminal profile of the person responsible. Despite the fire, investigators recovered evidence, a lot of it. According to the Dare Community Crime Line, 59 individual pieces of evidence were collected from the scene. Detectives began interviewing people who knew Denise. Within the first few days, investigators had already spoken with more than 150 people. But one person remained missing from those interviews: the unidentified blonde woman seen with Denise shortly before her death. Police released her description. They circulated a composite sketch. They asked repeatedly for her or anyone who knew her identity to come forward. But investigators never publicly confirmed who she was. Meanwhile, friends and members of the Outer Banks community began raising money for information that could help solve Denise's murder. Restaurants and local businesses participated. Memorial funds were established. People who knew Denise wanted answers, and investigators continued following leads. But as the summer of 1997 passed, none of those leads produced an arrest. Nearly 3 decades later, some of the same questions remain. Who was the blonde woman seen with Denise at approximately 1:10 that morning? What happened between Denise leaving that convenience store and firefighters being called to her home at 4:34? Who entered Denise's home, and why was the house intentionally set on fire after she was attacked? There was even early speculation that Denise's murder might be connected to another unsolved Outer Banks homicide. But investigators publicly rejected that theory at the time, saying they had no information connecting Denise's death to the 1993 murder of Janet Siclari in nearby Nag's Head. Denise's case had to stand on its own, and it still does. The evidence collected in 1997 remains part of an investigation that has outlived careers, relationships, and generations of visitors to the Outer Banks. Someone may remember something they dismissed at the time. Someone may recognize the woman from that old composite sketch, or someone may know exactly what happened inside that Norfolk Street home and has simply never said it out loud. Nearly 30 years is a long time to keep a secret. Denise Johnson finished her shift on a Saturday night in July of 1997. Hours later, firefighters were standing outside her burning home. The person responsible may have hoped the flames would erase whatever happened there, but they didn't erase Denise, and they didn't erase the questions surrounding her final hours. Nearly 30 years later, investigators are still waiting for the information that could finally bring those questions to an end. If you have information regarding the July 13, 1997 murder of Denise Johnson in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina, contact the Dare Community Crime Line at 252-473-3111. Anonymous tips are accepted, and even after all these years, no detail is too small. Who was with Denise during her final hours, and what happened after she returned home that night? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Marcus Hayes, and this is Case Files After Dark. Stay safe out there, North Carolina.